This was a tweet from a random account in June of 2022. It just posted simply, 2023, Corona ended. 2026, hantavirus. So again, don't know if you have a time traveler here, but that is pretty spot on from a random weird account. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. And who had Pandemic 2.0 on their 2026 bingo cards? I definitely didn't. I was hoping we would get a little bit longer before we played the COVID game again, but no, unfortunately, and I'm sure you guys have seen the news because it's literally everywhere today, there is a new insanely deadly virus out there called the hantavirus that, of course, has broken out on a cruise ship yet again, and it sounds like it's already starting to transmit across the entire globe. And yeah, great, because it sounds like it's about 1,000 times more deadly than COVID was. Now, very interesting timing in all this, and there's a lot of really sketchy stuff about this already, because it turns out that, well, there's things like that the Pfizer vaccine literally has listed on its website that one of the side effects from the COVID vaccine is mutations into the hantavirus, and looks like the U.S. military has already been developing a vaccine for this. Go figure. So we're going to break this all down, take a look at it. Great, here we go. COVID 2.0. Hope we're all ready for it just before the midterms. Yay. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Helps the channel. Follow us on Patreon. Grab some America First, America Only merch. All right, let's talk about it. Let's look at the reporting. Yes, this is just blowing up in the last couple days. Of course, if this timeline couldn't get any fucking worse, we have Pandemic 2.0. Real quick, so what is this? The hantavirus. Now, this is a super deadly respiratory disease that is supposed to only be transferable from animals to humans, but of course, guess what? Well, yes, the World Health Organization says hantavirus on cruise ship can transmit amongst humans. So I'm sure this is definitely not something that was bioengineered in a lab somewhere. I'm sure this is very, very organic, just like the last one. But let's get some reporting on this cruise ship and what's going on.
Today, 7 individuals of the 147 passengers and crew have been reported ill. Sadly, 3 have died. 1 patient is in intensive care in South Africa, although we understand that this patient is improving, while 2 patients are still on board the ship and are being prepared for medical evacuation to the Netherlands for treatment.
All right, another outbreak on a cruise ship, of course, and it sounds like half of the people infected have already passed away. The very concerning thing about this, and if you'll hear from the reporting, is what we saw there, that a lot of these people have already been shipped back to their countries of origins while they've been infected. Because that seems like a good idea, given what we saw, what happened with COVID. And as it says here, yes, it's been revealed 23 hantavirus cruise passengers returned home to all corners of the world, including the United States, and 1 is already critically ill. All right, here's a little bit more context about what this thing is.
I see enough posts talking about hantavirus that I finally looked it up. Associated Press said that the first person who died was an elderly Dutchman who died in the South Atlantic, and that was a month before they found out that it was hantavirus. Kicker here is it's the Andes strain of hantavirus, which is transmitted from person to person instead of person to rat shit. And they just found out about that after a month, and they got 150 people that are currently going to Spain's Canary Islands that are quarantining in their own rooms. But the cruise ship basically was going all over the Atlantic, down to Antarctica and back, and they found out over a month.
All right, so this is important context. What he said there is that the first person on that cruise ship actually died a month ago, and they've been all over the world making stops, getting off on ports. And why that becomes really important, because it turns out the incubation period for this hantavirus sounds like it's anywhere from about 2 to 6 weeks, which means there could already be people infected all over the world because of all the stops this cruise ship has made. And again, the virus has been on that cruise ship for over a month now, as they've literally stopped all around the world. We're seeing reports of this all over the world. Stuff like this. Irish news breaking: hantavirus, Ireland's first victim confirmed. Man whose parachute didn't open dies of hantavirus. Bizarre headline there. That's not what he obviously perished from. Sounds more like hitting the ground, probably is what did it, but you can already see down here. The man's asymptomatic body later tested positive. So we're playing this game again where the virus probably is all over the world in an incubation period right now, getting ready to explode. Let's hope not. Because again, I don't think any of us have the bandwidth for this right now. But at least there's no reporting of it coming to America yet, right? Well, no, the CDC just released this. Yes, just in, the CDC warns Texas of 2 residents that were on that ship during the hantavirus outbreak. Great. All right, now that we're caught up on what's going on with this cruise ship, and obviously potentially people all over the world already having transferred this, now let's look at all the sketchy stuff that people have already dug up about this new virus. All right, Marjorie Taylor Greene posted this morning. This is going viral all over the internet right now. There are things you just can't make up, and this is one of them. How very interesting. It says here, when you realize the new fear virus being pushed by the media, hantavirus, was also listed as an adverse side effect of the COVID vaccines. All right, as we see here from this report, the cumulative analysis of post-authorization adverse event reports from the COVID vaccines. For one, this is an insane amount of side effects they never told us about. And what's one of those side effects listed right here? Yes, hantavirus pulmonary infection. Now you might say, well, that's bizarre, the fact that the COVID vaccine had a side effect of the new hantavirus as a mutation, but also there's way more weird shit about this. This was a tweet from a random account in June of 2022 that just posted simply, 2023, Corona ended, 2026, hantavirus. So again, don't know if you have a time traveler here, but that is pretty spot on from a random weird account. Then we also have things like this, of course, from the Journal of Infectious Diseases. It says, safety and immunogenicity of the Andes virus DNA vaccine by needle-free injection. Randomized controlled phase. You can see here, yes, Andes strain hantavirus DNA vaccine, DNA volunteer. And they're talking about the vaccine and how it works to defeat this virus. Great. And then, of course, what do we have here? Oh, hantavirus vaccines, the complete development pipeline 2026 update. And we can see, look at all these different developers and institutions that have already been working on a vaccine for this. Again, you know, I mean, nothing to see here, nothing suspicious. But now, do I think this is fake? Do I think this is a fake story or a staged story? No, I don't. I think this is real. But again, it's very, very sketchy when we start looking at, you know, again, a virus that's not supposed to be transferable to humans that all of a sudden somehow mutated to go person to person on a cruise ship. It's already all over the world, and the vaccines are already in development for it. Of course, right before the midterms when we need a massive distraction from the war in Iran and the Epstein files. Again, maybe all coincidences, but it's a little bit sketchy because when we look at the last time this happened, all right, you got 2020, cardiorespiratory virus, COVID-19 shows up when you had a fuel price crisis, transportation sector crisis, and a tourism sector crisis. 2026, cardiorespiratory virus, hantavirus shows up during a fuel price crisis, the Iran war, transportation sector crisis, and a tourism sector crisis. And again, right before the elections, and man, wouldn't this be a good way to shut down the 2026 elections? A super deadly virus that we all have to go back and stay in our homes for the who knows how long? Again, it all seems real convenient right now. And here's another thing people are asking questions about. Now, this is a video released of someone who is currently still on that cruise ship being quarantined.
We're not just a story. We're not just headlines. We're people. We're not just a story. We're not just headlines. We're people. People with families, with lives, with people waiting for us at home. There's a lot of uncertainty, and that's the hardest part. All we want right now is to feel safe, to have clarity, and to get home.
Now, I feel for that horrible situation to be in for all these passengers, of course, but a lot of people are asking, very bizarre, that, you know, there's 150 plus people on that cruise ship, and since this all has transpired, he is the only person that has put anything out on the internet from that cruise ship. I imagine everybody's got phones, everybody's got access to the internet, and yet the only thing we got was one sort of hostage-style film video from one passenger. Again, I don't know, just seems like a lot of people would be talking about their situation if they were currently stuck quarantined on this cruise ship with a virus with a 50% kill rate. Maybe we're all just super skeptical of everything because of what we dealt with the last one. So what's my take on this whole thing, guys? Honestly, I don't really know, but I will say it does feel very bioweaponish. And by that I mean, again, a virus that's not supposed to be transferable to humans, that all of a sudden is the one perfect mutation strain that makes this transferable from human to human. Also on a cruise ship. That cruise ship has also let most of the people already go all over the world with, again, an incubation period of 2 to 6 weeks. It's almost the perfectly designed virus to cause a massive pandemic. So again, I don't know, but I also don't think that Americans are going to put up with any of this. Regardless of how real this thing is, if they try to start these, COVID-style lockdowns and stay-at-home orders and all this, I don't know, guys. At this point, with how authoritarian everything feels and how everything feels completely staged and fake every time we see it, and now all of a sudden, of course, here's a new pandemic right before the election cycle. Again, I don't know, guys. It's hard for me to believe this was another, they were messing around with mice, or, somebody ate a bat, especially when we look at the fact that these vaccines are already in development, and you have things like this being a literal listed side effect from the COVID vaccines. Yeah, guys, I don't know. But I do have some suggestions for you guys, because we already know how this thing's going to work, and would not be surprised to see runs on Costco and the grocery stores coming soon. So you may want to get ahead of it. Make sure you're stocking up on food, water, toilet paper, all the essentials, because God forbid, here we go, back to another pandemic 2.0 shutdown. You want to make sure that you are ready and your family is prepared to deal with this, not just the potential virus, but to deal with how society is going to potentially react like last time. So again, hopefully this thing somehow gets quarantined to the ship, but it sounds like the fact that they're already releasing people who are infected all over the world, yeah, I have a bad feeling that this is going to be the new news cycle going forward for the next year or two. But we'll just have to wait and see. We'll keep y'all updated as we find out more. All right, guys. Take care of yourselves out there. Have a good one.